We can't get away from the conversation of AI. I think a lot of agents are sick and tired of hearing about AI. However, it is in the front and center, at the forefront of our business.
Agents who recognize that the technology landscape is evolving and continue to adapt and adopt and try and discover new ways of serving their clients, they are going to ride this technology wave, and I'm so optimistic about what they're going to be able to do for their clients and what they're going to be able to do for the businesses that they're building.
It's all data points, it's all information, and it's really the key to your success. And if you want to separate yourself from everybody else, you have to be a master at your craft. And that really starts at being the expert, having the data, having the knowledge, having the information. And unless you have that, your biggest competitor will. Welcome back to Rise Above the Ranks. I'm your host, James Harris, and today I am joined by Cynthia Taylor, who is the Senior Vice President of Product at Zillow. Cynthia leads the teams responsible for building many of Zillow's consumer and professional products, which is today helping shape how buyers and sellers and agents navigate the real estate journey. Today, we'll be talking about something every single agent thinks about, which is how to build a business that can scale. Cynthia shares what she's seeing from the front lines of innovation and what the most successful agents today are doing differently. Welcome to Rise Above the Ranks. Thank you for being here. And first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing so great. How are you today?
Very, very well, thank you. And I'm excited to have you on the podcast. Obviously, so much to talk about in not a ton of time. So we'll jump in. There's obviously a lot of talk around Zillow. I think, in my opinion, as an agent in the field, there's so much unknown to agents about Zillow, but yet the agents that know Zillow love Zillow. So I want to get into all of it today and hear it from you. But before we really jump in and before we get into the technology side, I'd love to really understand your perspective on the industry itself. And I guess what first drew you into building products for real estate and what you've learned about agents from working so closely with them.
I feel like working and building a real estate technology for me has been a long time coming. Because growing up, my mom was a real estate agent. So this probably is a familiar story for many folks who are in the industry today. And when I was growing up, when I was in grade school, many decades ago, I helped out unpaid in her office and got to see from the front lines how hard and how manual and just how much responsibility real estate agents have. And I also got to see the magic that happens when real estate agents really have what they need in order to do fantastic work for their clients. I mean, like, when you think about it, real estate agents are basically professional fixers. They're professional problem solvers. And ideally, real estate agents focus time on solving problems for their clients and not so much on fighting the technology they use. The technology should be working for them to help their clients. So a lot of that has inspired, the work that I got into with Zillow. I've been at Zillow for quite some time. And the thing that I'm excited about every single day in helping our real estate agent customers is how we can solve real world technology problems for real people, the real agents who are out there doing really, really hard work, so that agents can go and focus on their clients and, do the work that's like truly meaningful.
Well, I love the fact that you've been in the field yourself. So you've experienced the problems that we're solving for as agents. When you talk about customers, are you referring to the consumer or the real estate agent? I assume the agent in this scenario.
The agent in this scenario, the reality is, in order for the process to work and for this really complex, stressful, emotional transaction to be completed and be completed well, you have to build products for both consumers and real estate professionals, the agent, the transaction coordinator, the office managers, the whole host of professionals that really support this very, very important and very hard and very stressful transactions. So here at Zillow, the consumer is the North Star. That's what we always say. The customer, we have to build for the real estate agent, because the real estate agent is what drives that client and that consumer experience first and foremost. So we really mean both. Yeah.
I love it. So the consumer is the North Star to Zillow, and the agent is really the customer who's facilitating that North Star. And I find it interesting, and I built my own tech platform recently, and I always talk about this, which is most agents out there today are sort of piecing together a very fragmented stack of tools and apps, and none of them really talk to each other. So I guess, how did the industry, in your opinion, end up here, right? We're in this $500 billion industry, yet all of our tech stacks are completely fragmented. But how do you think we got to this place from the beginning?
Through my experience as a product technology professional, so not necessarily as a day-to-day real estate agent practitioner, but as a professional who every single day builds technology products, the answer is pretty simple for how we got to this spot of fragmentation. So if you're thinking about what's easier, what's faster to build, it's almost always faster to build from scratch. So what ends up happening is you've got somebody who spots a problem, an actual need. Somebody decides, I'm going to solve this problem, and they move super fast and they build something really great, and they launch a product that solves that one problem through and through. And there you go. Now you have one more tool in the potential real estate agent tech stack. And there's a lot of smart people and a lot of great companies that recognize the challenges that real estate agents have day to day and are trying to make it better. And that's a fantastic thing. That drives more innovation, leads to better products overall. But as you said, it adds more tools without true integration on top of something that's already so fragmented. And then the real estate agent ends up being the person in the center who has to try to piece it together themselves. And that's so hard. And we recognize that. And we're really trying to address that with some of the products that we're building here at Zillow.
I love that. Excited to see what Zillow come out with. And obviously you're a fast moving company moving at a fast pace. But for me, let me ask you this. You see obviously all agents, right? You see the beginner agent, the agent that's been in the business 2, 3, 5 years. And then you see the highest performing agents. In your opinion, from what you're seeing, what separates the way these top producers operate from everybody else?
There's really one thing that separates the top producers and the highest performing agents from everybody else. The best, highest performing agents are fantastic at using the data that they already have. And what I mean by that is data like your client preferences, your client's communication patterns, whether your client wants a call or a text or an email, when your client wants outreach, when they don't, on top of all of the market data, the numbers, the things that really help agents shape listing strategy or help buyers navigate a market or decide when to move on a particular transaction. So all of that data, most agents have that somewhere within their tools. The highest performing agents have figured out how to triangulate the data that really matters and use the data that they have to the fullest of their advantage. And some of these agents are relying on piecing things together themselves, but you've now got things like Follow Up Boss and the new Zillow Pro membership that brings together the data that agents have about their database, their sphere, their past clients, their contacts, and all of the consumer activity and data that is happening on Zillow's platform. The 235 million monthly visitors on Zillow. So think about this combination where AI can play a part and change the equation, because AI is bringing all of these data points together in such a way where agents can easily leverage this combination of data to figure out, who do I talk to today? What do I say to them? how do I reach out? And folks are seeing way better results when, they're using systems that help them piece it together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying so. Look, as an agent myself, I always tell agents that are getting into the business, you're only as good as the information at your fingertips. If you want to separate yourself from the competition, you better be sure that you have the data ready to go. And I think in a time where AI is so front and center in our business, your consumer is getting a lot smarter. And I can't tell you how many times I've received a call from a consumer. They've already checked the question on ChatGPT. They're testing me to see if I have that knowledge. So it's all data points, it's all information, and it's really the key to your success. And if you want to separate yourself from everybody else, you have to be a master at your craft. And that really starts at being the expert, having the data, having the knowledge, having the information. And unless you have that, your biggest competitor will. So I very much hear and understand what you're saying, and it definitely resonates. Now, one of the core ideas behind Zillow Pro is, I would say, creating a more connected experience for agents, right? That's what you guys are saying and putting out there. But what does that actually mean in practice? What can agents take away from that? And so they understand how to use that in their day-to-day.
When you're thinking about a more connected experience, you really want to understand how to connect the work that you're doing with things that matter for your clients. So if you are spending your whole day figuring out how to connect your various systems, that's not what we mean by more connected experience. What we really mean is you want a system that acts like a second brain for you. So taking Follow Up Boss as an example. So thinking about Follow Up Boss, thinking about how Follow Up Boss is further amplified with the Zillow Pro membership, which brings in this whole wealth of consumer insights into the database that you already have. That connected experience amplifies your craft, what you are going to be able to do as an agent. And that connected experience helps you better serve your clients, produce more, do better. And so the how we're thinking about this initial Zillow Pro membership launch is, you've got this database, right? Your contacts, your past clients, they've come through all of these years of hard work that you've put in, and all of the kind of legwork, the email work, the digital outreach, and you don't want to just sit there or have to manually sort through what is happening. You want a system that works for you even when you're not working and highlights potential opportunities for you to reach out to somebody, to strike up a connection, to rekindle a conversation that might have fallen off to the wayside. And so when a contact agrees to collaborate with an agent through your Zillow Pro membership, that contact will see your name, the agent's name, your name, and the option to reach out to you directly to do things like book a tour with you on Zillow surfaces. That's like a very powerful thing. Again, 235 million visitors every single month on Zillow. So for agents, you're connecting Follow Up Boss and the Zillow consumer experience, giving agents insights into that consumer's browsing activity. So as an agent, you don't want to be playing catch up, right? You don't want every conversation you have with the clients who you're working with to be a, tell me everything that you've done and everything that you've researched since the last time we chatted. That's not a great use of time. What you want is, you want the insights already being fed to you so you can be proactive about being prepared for the client conversation. Like you just mentioned, your clients have already done their homework. Now you're going to have the data on what homework that client did on Zillow, so you can go and prepare to have that conversation and do even better. So kind of meeting that elevated consumer expectation. So I think it's very cool too. So,
It's very cool. I do have questions because I'm sure our listeners will have the same questions. And of course, what you're doing now is you're really building products for both consumers and agents, right? What you're saying is incredible. What happens to the agents, are agents no longer buying zip codes that would then they would be considered the listing agent because they've got market share of a zip code, or is this a separate program to that? Or how do you avoid that, just so I understand?
Yeah, I think about that separately, right? So as an agent, you always want to be trying to find new clients. You want to be prospecting. You want to be working your sphere. So the Zillow Pro membership is a separate way for you to get more out of the sphere and the contacts in the database that you already have. You do not need to advertise or buy leads from Zillow in order to utilize the Zillow Pro membership and connect the experiences of what your clients are doing on Zillow with what you see in your contact database in Follow Up Boss. So I'm going to repeat that. You do not need to advertise or buy leads on Zillow to use the Zillow Pro membership. They're completely separate and also very different use cases. For potentially for agents at different phases in their career.
I love it. Good. Thank you for clearing that up, because I know it's something that comes up and I want people to have a very clear delineation between those two. And now that you are building products, so to speak, and you always have been, obviously, for both the consumer and the agent, how do those two worlds influence one another? I think you just said it. You're connecting 235 million consumers with the real estate agent, which of course our job is to connect those two. Is that really the only line where you see those products connecting a consumer and agent, or is there a bigger picture outside of that?
I think underlying everything, an agent just wants to do the right thing and to serve their client and help their client reach their goals, whether that might be a client who's looking to buy in a market where they just can't find the inventory that matches their needs, or a seller who might be looking for an agent that can provide differentiated marketing, more exposure on Zillow, things like that. So at the end of the day, the thing that's most important is that the agent is better able to meet the clients where they're at, to serve those needs through products and services that they have access to, and do so in such a way that meets rising consumer expectations. So you mentioned, consumers now have access to more and more on their own, so they are going to be more educated, which is great. That helps an agent move faster into the, getting into the hard parts of a conversation or a transaction. So definitely just overall elevating the service and the data that helps an agent be proactive in serving their clients.
Love that. And it's obviously a world that's forever evolving, but quicker than we could ever expect. And I think the big conversation, and we have a huge audience of real estate agents that are following this podcast. And I think the most talked about topic at the moment is AI, right? We can't get away from the conversation of AI. I think a lot of agents are sick and tired of hearing about AI. However, it is in the front and center, at the forefront of our business. And I'd say most conversations stay very theoretical. But in your opinion, what does AI actually look like as a practical, let's say, business tool for agents? We all look at it differently. I have my own view. But in your opinion, what does AI actually look like for us as real estate agents?
AI for real estate agents, in my mind, there's just two layers. The first layer helps with the fragmentation. So, for example, helping, take notes on calls, make sure you're not dropping follow-ups. If you're using Follow Up Boss, you've got that functionality built in. You can get call transcriptions, records. It's already doing it for you. You already know that the conversations that you're having are going to be there in your notes after you talk to a client. That's just first layer, helping with the fragmentation. This next layer, I think, is the most practical and also impactful. The next layer of AI can help an agent predict and see which contacts need outreach today, what those contacts want outreach about, and what your sphere and your database is already doing. So I'll give you a very practical example here. So Likely to List is a new premium feature in the Zillow Pro membership. And Likely to List is exactly what it sounds like. If you're picturing what happens on Zillow in the months or possibly quarters leading up to somebody potentially thinking about listing their home, you will see a sharp uptick in activity on Zillow at that particular address. So Likely to List, all it does is it simply flags that particular address in your follow-up database. Zillow's AI sees it. We see the activity. And when that agent opens Follow-Up Boss, they've got the Zillow Pro membership. All of a sudden, they have a timely and relevant reason to reach out to a potential contact who may have been in their database for 6, 7, 8 years, who all of a sudden is an address where we've seen that consumer activity ramp up. Therefore, this person could be likely to list. That property might be likely to hit the market. And what a fantastic, well-timed opportunity to reach out. I think that's what maybe not every agent. I don't know. You tell me if every agent would like a feature like that, but
always looking at the best way to prospect, to get new listings, to find new buyers, to stay on top of their business. And I feel like our industry is one of which, as an agent, you're the CEO of your own business. And essentially, you're spinning 1,000 plates all at the same time. And so we're just thinking, how can we be more efficient? How can we work smarter, not harder? And I think with AI here today, just by the examples you've given, that's a great example of how that is working today. I think you answered my next question, which is really how Zillow Pro is actually leaning into AI to help agents work smarter, not harder. I'm pretty sure that was one very good example of that.
yeah.
But outside of that, I'm also thinking to myself, you guys at Zillow have all this insane amount of consumer and housing data, right? Which is what we're all trying to get our hands on. I guess, how does that data advantage change the game for real estate agents in real time? How can an agent stay ahead of the game with that data that they wouldn't have other than, I guess, potentially using Zillow Pro?
It's not enough to just have the data. You have to do something with that data. And it's not that agents are at a loss for understanding that there is action needed. It's just that, like you said, working smarter, not harder or faster. Agents, I mean, I saw it firsthand. Agent burnout is a very real thing because you are constantly on call, and every minute, I mean, your time is literally money. You work for yourself and you get what you put into it, but that doesn't need to come at the cost of consuming your entire life, right? So working smarter and really understanding what to do with the data in front of you and who to reach out to today is the key differentiator. So Follow-Up Boss, Smart Messages and Follow-Up Boss has been out for some time now. So we've got some data on the actual impact of agents who are using Smart Messages and Follow-Up Boss. We see that folks who are using Smart Messages, which helps agents with timing and content of the message for that specific contact. So suggestions on why you might want to reach out to this particular contact today based on, their views, saves, or share activity, search activity on Zillow. We see that folks who are using Smart Messages and Follow-Up Boss are getting 4 times the reply rate of manual outreach. And it's not because it's automated. That 4 times reply rate is because the message is relevant and timely. So, again, it's not enough to just have the data. An agent know they should be using this data in order to do outreach, but it's having a system that helps you wade through the possibilities of actions that you could take and take the potential highest value action today based on all of the data points and inputs that we're seeing.
I love it. Very cool. And it's just another clear example of how AI is becoming a game changer. I don't think 2 years ago we had the tech to actually implement something like this. And at the speed in which we're moving, who knows what comes next, which for me is a crazy thought. And I'd love to know from you, like, how do you think the role of a real estate agent evolves over the next 5 years? We don't have a crystal ball, but so many want to know what, people that sit in your seat are thinking for the future of our jobs. People that are in product, I'd love to hear from you on what you think our business looks like 5 years from today.
I think agents will always have a role to play. 90% of transactions in the United States have a real estate agent involved. And the reason that is because these are very challenging, emotional, stressful, high complexity things that happen rarely for the consumer, whether that be on the consumer buyer or for the consumer seller. And so, AI here is really helping agents find ways to delegate that routine manual work. You want AI to help you be able to take on more clients, to respond better, deliver a better experience. You can picture an agent spending less time manually making updates to their database, that kind of end-of-day thing where you're struggling to remember what exactly happened throughout your day-to-day, where you've, been in the car and been to 15 different locations. But instead of doing that, you want AI and your assistants to help you better serve the people in your life, the clients who you're working with. And so there's a role for agents to play. Agents are much more likely, I think, in the future to really take on the kind of that professional services, experienced craft, rather than just the data entry, data cleansing type role that many agents might feel they're stuck in today. So, yeah.
I so agree with that. Look, agents that come to me, I always say to them, you can use AI to save you time and give it back to you. It can create ways to help you work smarter, not harder. But once you start letting AI do the work for you, you start to lose that personal touch, that personal feeling. And the reason that I believe we'll be right in the same position we are in 5 years as we are today is it is, as you said, such a personable business. The moment you start letting a language model write an email for you, you start to lose that personal touch. Once you start to just get lazy by using AI, you lose who you are. So my advice is use it to become smarter. Use it to help you save time, but don't use it so that you can become lazy and lose who you are and the very passion that got you into this industry in the first place. So I love what you guys have built. I think it's, look, you're leaning into product the way you should as AI is evolving. And I think that agents will take to that very well. But for those agents out there that are listening who felt just completely overwhelmed by technology, and by the way, I've been building product now for 2 years myself with something that we've launched. And by doing so, I've spoken to quite literally thousands of agents. And they are overwhelmed and they are sick of hearing about AI, and they don't know how to kind of go or where to go from here. I guess my question to you is, where would you advise those agents that are overwhelmed by tech? Where should they start?
I'm not a practitioner, so my best advice is to find a practitioner, find a visible agent, or find somebody else in your local market, another pro that you want to know more about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it doesn't have to be a big name. So, listening to this podcast is already getting ahead of the game, right? Oh, it could be just another agent in your market, and have a conversation, try something they're doing. But this is super important because I think a lot of folks assume that everybody else is doing it better than they are. I would really want every listener to not assume that other practitioners are doing it better than you are. So you might have stumbled into something super simple in your workflow that just works. This one feature that really knocks it out of the park. Or, technology can be overwhelming. Here's a secret. You do not have to use every single product and feature that's out there and available to you. You don't. What you do need to do, though, is understand the role that each plays so that you can appropriately mix and match the benefits of those products and feature sets with the problems that you're trying to solve or fix for your particular client, whether that be on the buyer side or the seller side. So for those of you out there that have stumbled onto something in your workflow where it just works, others could likely benefit from what you've already figured out. So here's a shameless plug. Every single fall, Zillow hosts a conference for agents, for practitioners. It's called Zillow Unlock, and we do it every year. And the entire goal of this conference is to bring together active practitioners, agents, team leads, to come together and experience this packed agenda where the workshops are led by other agents. The panel have team leads on a whole host of very relevant and timely topics, and happens every fall. It's super practical. It's super hands-on. It's a really great way to better understand the tools available, so you can decide how you might want to leverage those tools in your workflow or not.
And when is that conference?
This fall should be in October this year. Folks should be able to go online and find the registration site, but we'll provide you with a link that you can maybe put in your show notes. And
love that. And that's really good advice. We're in such a bizarre industry because most sales industries, people don't want to help each other. Yet in the real estate industry, as agents, we truly want to help one another. We want to help each other succeed. We believe in a healthy competition. There are so many different conferences and real estate coaches and networks and communities where, as an agent, you can join. So if you do feel overwhelmed, you just said it best. Reach out to a practitioner, a peer. Reach out to someone that you know is tech savvy. Reach out to someone that you have similarities to in our business. Ask them what they do. Doesn't mean you need to listen, doesn't mean you need to take their advice. But I always say in this industry, look for the similarities, not the differences, and find your peers that speak to you and just ask them, what are you doing that's helping you? How are you saving time? How are you working smart? And I guarantee you the answer will have something to do with AI. And at that point, as the agent, you get to pick and choose those tidbits that make sense for you, make sense to you, so that you can better your progress around AI. So thank you for that. It resonates a lot. Now, moving on, and I know we've got to wrap soon. When you as a product person thinks about Zillow Pro, I guess if there was one opportunity that you're most excited for agents to take advantage of, what would it be?
With the premium tools that are available through the Zillow Pro membership, the most exciting opportunity is unlocking the power of your existing database. So any agent who's been in business for more than a few years, you are going to have thousands and thousands of relationships that you have spent some amount of time investing in over the years, past clients, referrals, sphere, folks who you met, at various events, things like that. And the Zillow Pro membership with Follow Up Boss lets agents bring those relationships into this connected Zillow experience where you can start getting those consumer insights that better allow you to unlock the power of your database. So again, every contact gets this benefit with the Zillow Pro membership, not just, leads that might have originally come from Zillow. You don't need to purchase leads from Zillow to get the benefit from the Zillow Pro membership.
Love it. A product to Zillow. That's the number one takeaway there. And I guess just to really wrap it up, when you think of the next chapter of this crazy real estate business, what gives you the most optimism, right? I feel like there's a lot of negativity in the world right now. Forget real estate, just in the world. I know what I believe the glass half full looks like for me for the future, but would love to hear what's giving you and the team over at Zillow the most optimism right now.
The future of real estate for real estate professionals is bright. Real estate agents are problem solvers who help people, their clients, real people, do a very, very hard, emotional, stressful thing. And agents who are really great at doing that will continue to grow their businesses. And what's changing and what people need to pay attention to, and I think is changing for the better, is how real estate agents can do that in a tech-enabled world. And agents who recognize that the technology landscape is evolving and continue to adapt and adopt and try and discover new ways of serving their clients, they are going to ride this technology wave. And I'm so optimistic about what they're going to be able to do for their clients and what they're going to be able to do for the businesses that they're building.
I love it. What a great way to finish. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it very much. Cynthia Taylor's perspective highlights an important shift happening across the industry. The agents who thrive will be the ones with the right systems, not just the most tools. As technology, AI, and consumer expectations continue to evolve, success will come from creating a more connected business that does allow agents to spend less time managing workflows and more time deriving value. I'm James Harris. This is Rise Above the Ranks. Until next time, keep rising. And Cynthia, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast today. Thank you very much.